Hey, my name is Roa Tortas and welcome to my second part of the Java tutorial series. So, um, today we're going to learn how to make a simple Java program. And I suggest you watch the previous video because if you haven't watched it, I really recommend you to do so because we covered a lot in the past video. We saw how to make an Eclipse workspace. We saw how the JVM works. We saw quite a bit of stuff that I think you should learn before starting your coding journey. So, without further ado, let's just begin. So, just open Eclipse. Remember that I have a that I have a theme installed for Eclipse. That's why this window looks different, but it doesn't matter. We just open the programming tutorial workspace. We just open our workspace that we created the previous episode, and here we have it. Here we have it. Now we have it just how we left it off, and yeah, great. So let's build our Java program. So we have. You might be noticing here that we have a little bit of things to cover. For example, what is package? Like I explained in the previous episode, the package is just the folders that tell Java it's the path where this .java file is located at. So roatortas.code.files is here. Roatortas code files and then main app. That's basically it. It's where the Java file is located. In this case, main app.java. Then we have public class main app. Now, we'll go through each of these parameters, or well, keywords. So, public. What is public, you might ask? Well, it's kind of simple. Public is just a keyword used in Java to specify that an object, in this case the class that is main app, will be public. So what that basically means is that if I create another class here, let me just create a new class, let me just call it test. Test class. Now, in test class, we have the same format that we have on the main app.java file. So here, what happens if I want to call main app? Oh, well, I'm just going to do main app main. And look at this, we have it. We have it here, main app main. And if we control and then click it, we get redirected to the main app class. Now, what happens if I change this to private, for example? First of all, it doesn't let me because Java only lets classes be public. So here it says only public, abstract, and final are permitted. We're not going to get into details right now with abstracts nor finals. We're just going through the basics here. So here, public is just basically it lets you get objects from other classes into the current class. For example, if I create an integer, which an integer is just an object that goes from, well, negative to positive, and that is a whole. An integer doesn't support decimals or floating points, as people say. So integer, we're going to create a new integer object called test int. And we're just going to put it to equal 0. 0. There we are. We have an int called test int that equals 0. So we go to test. Now we want to use that for whatever reason we want to use main app's test int variable, well, we want to use it in the test class. How do we do that? Well, we call the main app class, and we call it as a variable main. And here, for example, we want to get the test int. Let me just create a quick method here. So we want to use test int in test class. How do we do that? Main app. We have main app here. We want to call it main dot test int. Here we are. We have test int here, and look at that, it works. But what happens if I change this to a private? Oh, we see an error here. Change visibility of test int to package, which changing it to package will equal that, will make it so that that the test int will have the ability to be called only on the package that it is at, which is robatortas.code.files in my case. So it throws me an error because it can't get a variable that is private, because, well, it is private. Private basically means that it is just that this variable is exclusive to the class it is in this case main app. So test int can only be used in main app.class. So test int can only be used on main app. So that's basically it. If we make it public, look at that. This error goes away, and we can use main, and we can use main app's test int in test class. It's a little bit complicated, but I'll try to explain it a little bit better later. So now, what is a variable? I've been talking about variables, but I haven't explained them at all. Well, if you've had maths, I think you probably know what a variable is. It's just in this case a number that can be volatile, that can basically equal to something. It is not constant. It is a variable, not a constant. So if we look for the definition of variable, it is not consistent or having a fixed pattern, liable to change. So that is a variable. A variable is something that can change. In this case, a number that can change. We can make this 1. We can make this 2. We can make this 3. We can make this 10,000, you know. We can make it whatever we want. Of course, there are limits, because an integer has a number limit. For example, we go here. Let me just search Java variable limits. I don't remember these correctly because, well, I'm not gonna remember these, but yeah, for example, we have different kinds of variables or data types. For example, here we go to byte. A byte, well, I hope you already know the basic measures of computer storage in this case. So I hope you already know what a byte is, what a bit is, what a kilobyte is, what a megabyte is, what a gigabyte is, what a petabyte is, and so on and so forth. I hope you already know what that is. I'm not going to explain it here because you should already know it. So a byte measures 1 byte in, well, that's obvious, but it measures 1 byte. And a byte can store whole numbers from -128 to 127. I'm pretty sure you already know why, because, well, 1 byte is 8 bits, and 8 bits can be equal to this, well, to this, and, well, floating points and stuff. Anyways, I'm getting out of the main point. A short can store 2 bytes, so it can store double, so it can store double the size that a byte can. So it can store minus 32,768 to 32,767. An int, 4 bytes. You know, you can, and already an int is a lot. Look at this value. It is insane. It is 2 billion, minus 2 billion. It's a lot. Well, yeah, it's a lot. Long, well, it goes to 8 bytes. Float goes to 4 bytes. Double goes to 8 bytes. Boolean goes to 1 bit, which can only store true or false. And a char goes to 2 bytes, and it can only store a single character. So, you might be seeing this a little bit weird since an int is 4 bytes, but then a float is 4 bytes, and a double is 8 bytes, and a long is 8 bytes. What's going on here? A long and an int are for whole numbers from like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. And float and double are to store decimals, floating points. Stores fractional numbers, sufficient for storing 6 to 7 decimal digits. So a float can store a whole number and 6 to 7 decimal digits. And a double can store 8 bytes, which is sufficient for storing 15 decimal digits. You're starting to see this now, right? Float and double are for storing decimals. And the byte, short, int, and long are for storing whole numbers. It might be a little bit of information for you to grasp right now, but I'm sure you will get it. You can get it soon. You will be able to get it. So we have this here. So now, what is the keyword class? Class. Let me just delete this other test.java that I made here. Anyway, class, it's just the keyword that is telling Java that main app is a class. It's a class type. And main app is just the name of the class, which in this case should always be the same as the file name, which in my case is mainapp.java, and the class name is mainapp. Simple. And the curly braces are just to tell, are just for Java to be able to tell what's inside the class. So whatever's inside these curly braces is going to be inside the class. So now we're going to work on our method. And as I said before, a method is where we store code. So we can have as many methods as we want in a class. And you might be asking yourself, well, then why do we use different various classes if we can just store every single method on main app? Well, because just for organization, it's just going to be much more effective to have different classes with different names for different specific things than having it all in one. So, main app. Java, for Java to read, to call all the methods that I'm trying to explain this as much as I can, as well as I can, and it's kind of hard, so please just have a little bit of patience with me. So, for Java to be able to read all of our code, it needs to have a main method, and a main method is just a method where every line of code will be stored in. That main method is the one that Java is going to read. So whatever we put inside the main method will be ran by Java. So to make this, we just make a public method that returns void, and I am gonna explain to you what void is in a second. Then static, I'm gonna explain what static is in a second too. Main, and then here we just put string, 2 braces, and then just args. Oh, yeah, we put static before void. There we are, public static void main string args. A lot of people hate on Java with public static void main string args because it is a very long method just for a main method, but you know, it's what it is. And you might it's kind of hard to make this out, since why is there a string braces args in there? Why is there a string args in here? First of all, let me explain to you what a parameter is. A parameter is just basically... Okay, I thought I heard something. Anyways, a parameter is just basically whatever is inside these parentheses. These parentheses. Whatever is inside these parentheses is going to be a parameter, and we can input whatever we want on the parameters. We can put an integer, like int variable, and here we have it. And we can use int a variable in here, var equals 0. Look at that. If we delete this, it will mark me an error because var doesn't exist. I'm going to explain this in much more detail in future videos, probably on the 3rd episode. But for now, we're just going to stick to string args. You don't really need to know what string args does, but I'm just going to explain it briefly. It just... well, I don't really need to explain it. It's not relevant. But it's just when you execute a Java program, for example, in the CMD, when you execute a Java program, here you go, for example, Java my app.java or jar, and then we can input whatever we want after this. We can input f dash f, then hello, and these are the arguments, the args, string args, and this is what's going to be stored in the string args parameter. So dash f space hello will be stored on the string args parameter, and we can use this for parts of our program, and I'm not really going to get into detail with that, but it's just like this. That's basically it. So now we have our main method, and we have our class. Now, what else do we want to do? We want to write some code. Now, how do we do that? What do we want to write? Well, there's something called Hello World, which it's the first program that any programmer makes. And Hello World is just basically printing out on the console Hello World. That's basically it. And how do we do that? Let me just write the code for you. So we just put system.out.println, and we put inside these two parentheses, we just put two little, I don't remember what they were called, the apostrophes. Yeah. We just put two apostrophes, and inside those apostrophes we put hello world. Now, let me explain to you what this is. System is, look at this, system is a class, the system.class. And you might be really weirded out by this, but it's really simple. So you see all this weird code here, don't really worry about it. This class comes with Java. The system class is a Java class. It comes with Java. So this system class helps us, the developers, write, it helps us write code easier. Any class that is given by Java will make the developers, us, have it more easy while developing. In this case, here it says the system class contains several useful class fields and methods. It cannot be instantiated. So this class can do standard input, standard output, and error output streams, access to externally defined properties and environment variables. So this just basically all this weird definition can be just translated to this class helps us input and output stuff to the console, and errors, and some other stuff that we don't really care about much right now. So we call this system, the system class, system, and then we can do here system dot out. And over here you can see you can use a lot of functions that the system class provides. So putting this dot just tells Java that you are going to access a method or a variable, but basically any object from the system class. System dot out. Here you can see, for example, in system class, we can see here out. We are calling this object out. Here, if we control click this, it takes us to this object, to this variable. So we're calling out on system. System.out.println, which println is inside print stream. If we go here to println, print stream, here it is, print line method, which just creates a new line here, and this goes on. It's just a bunch of calls, Java calls. So system.out.println hello world. And that's basically it. If we run our program right here on the top of the screen here, run main.java. Here we click it, and look at that. We have hello world on our console. So we can input whatever text we want here. We can just put something random here, run the code again, and here we see it. This random string of text. And that is how you make a hello world program. And this, just for you to know, these two lines are just basically commenting this line out. And basically comments can be useful for basically explaining what a method or a variable does. For example, here we can put main method used to run all the code. Here it is. We have a little note here, a little comment. So whenever someone reads our source code, they can see that the main method is used to run all the code. And here we just system.out.println hello world. It's as simple as that. I really oversimplified things, but let me just explain it to you very briefly. So public basically means that you can use other objects from public just basically means that you can use the object that is public in other classes. The class keyword just means that the next parameter is going to be a class type. Main app is just the name of the class. Curly braces are where the just tell Java where the code, if the code is inside or outside the class or the method. Then here, comments are just to comment stuff, comment code. Public static void main string args is just it's just the main method, which the main method is the place where all the code is ran. String args, you don't really need to worry about string args, and system.out.println is just a bunch of calls that just it's just a bunch of calls that end up in println that let you print stuff to the screen. And println stands for print line, so it prints a line. So it prints and then it goes to the second line, to the next line basically. So that is basically it. This is the whole tutorial. It's as simple as that. We have been recording for 24 minutes. I always record for too long. I always explain things for too long, and I always take too long to explain. But yeah, that's it. Really, that's your class, your main app class with your main function. Great. Now, I hope you got to understand my weird explanations. I hope you understand it. Don't really think about it too much. We will keep advancing in later videos, and we will see what static and what void means in deeper. Well, we will see what they are, and we will see Java calls. We will see how to make a variable, how to add, how to subtract, divide, and stuff like that. So for now, this is going to be it. I hope you guys liked this video, and I'll see you guys later. And of course, yeah, you can ask me any questions in the comments. I will try to answer you. Bye bye.